green.
Hello, everyone. My name is Trups LP, and welcome to another iteration on the right day this time of our political recaps. And joining me, as always, is the lovely and moist Omegon. Say hello, Omegon.
Hello, Omegon. You are right. It was a correct day. It's quite nice. How was your LARPing?
Yes, LARPing was actually it was actually very fun. I haven't in August we had a an event that wasn't our normal game. It was a one-shot event. Uh, so it was nice to return to the same character I've normally played.
Okay. Well, at least you got to unwind after the considerable amount of overtime you've been doing.
Still doing it, by the way.
Yeah, I figured you might be.
Woo!
Congratulations.
Well, I'm drinking.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, you did appear on my Twitch stream indicating you've been home for a while drinking.
Yes, since 3 o'clock.
I don't know what that is my time. It's
An hour and a half ago.
Hour and a half ago, so that's not bad. You had a few drinks in.
No, and yeah, it was more like I just did a double shot in my drink.
That's not bad. Hello, Cyrene. Happy birthday, Cyrene. Hello, Karma, Norwegian writer, Lucy, and Echo. Hope you're all well. Where do we start? Should we just do the small stories first? Because these ones are just minor interest stories.
Sure, why not?
All right.
Let's do that.
Okay, first, let's go with... Okay, so Canada's going through some elections at the moment. And the Green Party, to appear more environmentally friendly, took the liberty of photoshopping an image. And I haven't actually got it on the screen, so I will quickly go and get it. They photoshopped a really stupid image. And here we are. Yes, so in the picture, you have Elizabeth May, leader of the Greens. On the right, she has a disposable cup and a metal straw. And on the left is the image they doctored, where they removed it and replaced it with a cardboard, a recyclable mug, cup thing. This became a huge deal. It's taken away from the blackface, which I'm going to talk about in a second as well. Because somebody else has been doing that, and I thought it was quite funny. But yeah.
You know what's really sad, though?
What's sad?
It almost looks too perfect.
If it weren't for the index finger, I'd agree with you.
For me, it was the shadowing.
Yeah, I think...
Like how the hand is casting a much darker shadow.
Agreed. I think they had... If they'd moved the hello, Ithalian and Christina and Karina and Vengeful Twinkie. I did shill, I think. If not, oops. I think it's just a silly little ploy. It does open them up to... I mean, they probably will end up getting flayed for this. Although Elizabeth May did come out against it because she didn't know this had happened. I think that's quite funny. Her party acting without her knowledge, that says a lot about how well she runs it. Hello, MC. But I want to move on to blackface. Where is it? I've got the article somewhere. Where are you?
I want to move on to blackface.
Right, okay, so there's a Tory MP called Sir Desmond Swain, who's been, all week, he's been defending Trudeau. He's been defending Trudeau because he himself also, quotes, blacked up as James Brown at a fancy dress party many, many years ago. And he wanted to... And his reasoning for this is because Sir Desmond Swain... I need to put a picture of him on the screen so you can understand just how pale he is. Give me a moment. I will put it on the screen. He's pretty pale. Yeah, he's quite a pale gentleman. But he did it because he wanted to look as authentic as possible. And
he's got facial structure to pull off a James Brown. To be honest with you,
he you know what? I'll go get a picture of James Brown and I'll just put that on the screen. I'll add an image and then drag it behind. So I do apologise for the lack of professionalism on this one. But let's see. Here's James Brown, and we'll just put him behind here. There you go. So you've got James Brown here. Oh, okay. I moved the set. That made sense. There we go. Yeah, he kind of does have the structure, not quite, but it's an interesting idea. It's close, sure. Unfortunately, we don't have
mostly that forehead crease is really what I was looking at.
Oh, the crease was something. We don't have many pictures of this. This guy, by the way, has also he's refused to apologise for that, but he's also he's quite famous actually for falling asleep on a number of occasions in Parliament. In fact, he has fallen asleep right behind somebody who's actually giving a speech. Now, of course, he got told off for this, but the video, I wish I could show you the video of it, but you get copyright claimed. But this idiot falling asleep in Parliament with his glasses all half off his face, it's something. Nobody, by the way,
How old is
this guy? Oh god, must be in his 80s by now. How old is he?
Okay,
Oh no,
look,
no,
man,
63.
I'm surprised he
63.
doesn't take a nap at 2:00.
Yes, well, 63. My mistake. He said, well, he wouldn't do it again because of the trouble, not because of political correctness, but because of the trouble of getting clean again.
Oh no!
Oh, this guy cracks me up. I love it because else it's a really stupid idea for a costume. But I can understand the idea of appreciating a costume like that. Hello to other people I forgot to say hello to: Prospero of White, and Cyrus, Saki, and Astra. Hope you're all well. Yeah. Okay, those two done. Do you want to talk about something in America first? Like
America, sure.
About California.
Did you know that Trump is a bad man?
Oh, hang on. If we're going to do that, I'm going to put I'm going to go and get the. I guess since that's one of the main topics, I'll just go and get the correct picture back on screen. There you go.
Yeah.
Just a Schiff. Just add partisan hot air. Impeach. Full of Schiff. Okay.
Yes.
So why is Trump a bad man this week?
Oh, I think it had something to do with the Ukraine.
Okay. I vaguely know something about this. This wasn't this like he'd spoken to the prime minister or president over there about investigating Biden.
Yes.
Why?
So apparently, while Biden was vice president, his son worked for a Ukrainian gas company, making about $50,000 a year. And at some point, he was going to be investigated for, I believe, something along the lines of conflict of interest. And the alleged accusation is that Biden had told the prosecutor to stop investigating, which is kind of bizarre when you consider it. And based on the media attention on how much they want to shut down this thought, and apparently a Washington Post and somebody else had investigated such the claim when it actually happened. They have found that it was neither for personal nor political gain, so there was no laws broken. However, Trump has recently said, hey, Prime Minister, President, can you take a look at this because something feels wrong about this? And he released the entire transcript of the conversation. Apparently that's grounds for impeachment.
Okay. He released the entire conversation. Isn't he allowed to do that?
Yeah.
He's allowed to do that, though,
Yeah,
isn't he?
course.
And
Of course he is.
it's also Prospero just said what I was about to say. Biden admitted it. So
Yeah, he did.
what's wrong?
Because it looks like Trump is soliciting former Russian-held assets for another 2020 interference of the election.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Since the first one went so well.
Yeah, no, he's not. I had heard that Pelosi wasn't originally going to start the investigation into possibly impeaching, because
I have to give Pelosi credit. She's been trying to hold on to that middle ground as hard as she can.
But now she has to, doesn't she?
Everyone on her side is kicking her.
Isn't that interesting? Because as Speaker, that's what she has to do, and now she's trying to do it. It's astonishing. I have to actually give her credit because she's doing her job.
And I gave her a lot of shit at the beginning of her term as Speaker, but I gotta give her credit. In the last 3 months or so, she's been trying to hold on that fucking that middle ground as hard as she can, and I got she's doing pretty good until recently.
Okay, so she has. How has she? Would you say she's now caved in though? and so the impeachment investigation is going ahead or something now, or is it something else?
Oh, the investigation is going ahead. At least the drafting of the articles of impeachment is going ahead, but that's not news.
It's been going for a while, hasn't
That's
it?
happened a lot. That's happened a lot, actually.
Right, I see this ending oh so well. What's been going on with the whistleblower?
So that's a misnomer, because whistleblower is not necessarily what he is, because a whistleblower, by virtue of the name, is usually a person who gains information through their business dealings or their work. This person is neither of those two. They are a person who heard a rumor
Oh,
and
right.
told the people. So neither a whistleblower nor a spy.
It's nice.
Just a dickhead.
It's nice to see whistleblower then has lost all meaning.
Completely and utterly, yes.
I did actually watch that, and my first thought was, upon hearing because obviously I had Parliament on as well, and so I heard bits of it, and I sat and I did think, I don't think people in that room, while thanking this guy for turning up, actually know what a whistleblower is. I mean, it's like they've forgotten. Does Ed Snowden not count?
That's the weird thing, right? Like, everyone on the Democratic side is like, oh, whistleblowers, they're so important, we must protect them. Trump's like, we really should kind of protect Assange. And everyone's like, no!
Yeah, no, you can't do that. It's because Trump said it. It's like Brexit, which was a leftist idea.
Exactly.
Can't have that.
I saw a very interesting picture of Boris and Trump as, I think it was Twitter D and Twaddle Dumb.
Okay.
And I thought that was very funny. It was a picture of Trump angrily talking on the phone and Boris just looking sad and alone.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me when I hear all the things that are happening in your country, looking at what our president is doing. And by the way, I want to point out all this fucking bullshit about impeachment that they have been continuing going on. They've been going on about impeachment since he's been elected.
I'm pretty sure they were doing it before he was elected. I'm pretty sure they did.
They want. I don't think they believe that he would win before he was elected.
I think they wanted him impeached before he was even the nominee. Before he even put himself up as a nominee. By the way,
I personally want you to write why he's a traitor and a coward. I'm curious as to your explanation.
He does stream a lot, so perhaps he could do it that way. It'd be fantastic. I'd love to hear that. I do. The word impeachment has been thrown around a lot in the UK as well recently, because obviously there are ways to impeach a prime minister in this country, and I think it's just one of those very, very. The way it's being framed in this country, it appears more cowardly. Like, because obviously Boris has virtually done nothing. He hasn't had a chance to do anything, but people are so scared of what he might do. They're willing to take him away from the table entirely, which is just that's not politics. That's children having a fit at a toy machine because their parents will give them what you'd call a quarter. Thank you, Talon. I really appreciate that. I think it's just sad. By the way, I don't know anything about whistleblowers. I really don't. It's not a thing really in this country much. Most of the times whenever things come out, it's done because we have to make it public. Whenever a company steals information like Cambridge Analytica or makes it public or something, or sells it to parties that shouldn't have it. So we don't have whistleblowers. And I found the whole thing against your president to be quite funny, because I saw Twitter, and as always with Twitter, it was very much he's screwed now, he's done, it's over, Trump is cancelled, And I sat back and thought, no, that's not how I see it. I see it as a pointless conversation where someone even admitted to doing something they shouldn't have done in the first place, and it being made public. But because of timing, you see it differently.
You know what the saddest thing about it is that they've never let up. They've never... It doesn't matter what he does. Whether he brings in a successful economy, whether he eliminates unemployment, whether he brings up the minority communities to give them some of the best employment rates they've had in the last 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
he's still a bad guy. And at a certain point, the people on Twitter can be called nothing short of deranged.
Thank you, Talon, for
Because
donating $10 to Traps.
Oh, thank you.
Carry on. Sorry.
Thank you, Talon. They're nothing short of deranged. Because at this point, you're willfully ignoring all the things that are going on.
What has... Okay, so I do have one obvious question. With what has happened, what has Biden done since?
Bragged about it, said that Trump is full of shit, and continued his campaign trail to all the people that would rather suck his balls than actually look for the information themselves.
Yeah, so I find the fact that his son was accepting money from a company they wasn't qualified for. Biden's trying to frame it as Trump trying to hijack the election. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's not a president hijacking an election. He's the president. He is the election. You're the person trying to dethrone him, or one of the people trying to dethrone him or unseat him, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not. Yeah, no, I've made my point. I'm looking at Biden's Twitter.
Biden would be in the position of the challenger at this point.
I'm looking at Biden's Twitter, and he's deflecting, and most people are just pointing out that so he was asked on not Fallon, Kimmel, if Trump committed an impeachable offence, but I can't play it to find out what he said because it's on Kimmel and CNN. Who'd copyright claim this the fastest, do you think?
Kimmel.
Yeah, Kimmel. I'm very intrigued to see how this plays out, because with hang on, you've got so the House Democrats have subpoenaed the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Is that how you pronounce it?
Pompeo. Yeah.
Right. They've called him in, specifically expressing an interest in the role that Rudy Giuliani played in pressuring Ukraine to open an investigation. Interesting. I don't know what to say to that, really, because it's, again, I've watched your committees, and I'm sure you have, many people have. It's incredibly childish. It's worse than
watching that whole thing with your attorney general did actually make me think the same.
Yeah, there is a okay, so for those who don't know, Trump's watched, much like I did, the first day of Parliament after the annulment or voiding of the prorogation, which many MPs can't seem to say correctly. It's prorogation, not prorogation. It's not row your bucket. No. Stop it. The point is, we watched it, and the Attorney General was answering a number of questions during that 11 hours, and the point is, you get interventions. People say point of order, so the Speaker has to give that person a chance to make their point of order, and the person who is speaking, whether they're asking a question or they are answering a question, must be heard, and then the person responding can choose to answer in whichever way they want. For example, when asked repeatedly about whether they'll follow the rule of law when it came to the asking for an extension by mid-October, the response wasn't instead saying yes, because everyone was wanting them to say yes. They said instead, we will follow the rule of law, which is the best flip-off answer you can give, because it implies two things. Because it implies they'll follow it, because everyone's claiming it's legally binding. However, actually, no, it's not. It's actually not, because there's one thing that supersedes it entirely, and that is that it's okay. There's two things actually. The first thing being that the Prime Minister can simply ignore it, because he can. It's not legally binding. They keep saying it is. Every legal expert has said no, it's not. And the second is the EU can still just say no. In fact, they're going to say no, because France have already said it. As have, I think, was it Northern... Well, no, it was Ireland, I think. Prerogative prorogation, nice. Prorogue your legislature. I honestly, people are asking for Parliament to go that way, but I think we'll finish with on America first before we get into Brexit, because I'll end up just collapsing into a pile of stuff. Oh dear.
Yeah. So, okay, basically the whole thing is they're drafting articles of impeachment. Pelosi president was trending on Twitter all day yesterday, and I think the day before,
Right.
because they were like, we should impeach Pence first. And I was
Why?
like, yeah, what the fuck has he done? He literally has done nothing.
Hey, wasn't he just the governor of Indiana or something?
He's the vice president now, but like
Yeah, but what's he done?
The worst thing that he's done is say that
Oh, he's anti.
He won't with another woman. He won't have dinner with another woman.
Okay, so I know what someone's actually going to say. They're going to talk about the dealing with the gays. They're going to bring that up.
That was a while ago.
I know, and he's not. I don't know if he's the same person or not. I don't. But I know that's what they're going to bring up. But I'll be honest. What's Pence actually done?
Right. Just because he believes something doesn't mean that his actions prove he is impeachable.
We say that. What does everyone else say? I mean, by that I mean those interested in the soundbite.
Well, unfortunately, eventually you'll have to get it through the appropriate channels of legal precedent.
And there's where the new issue, because doesn't this normally go through committee hearings? And that normally becomes
hearings, and eventually, if it needs to, it will be heard by the Supreme Court.
Where I'm poking at this is the obvious party lines, where even if there's just one more Democrat, they'll all just vote in unison against the Republicans' cause. I assume the Republicans do the same when they're in majority.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I don't really know I don't know, but I haven't seen that happen yet because obviously they're not in control. So I think that could, if they do push on Pence like that, they just do it with party line voting, which is incredibly childish.
Sean brings up a comment. He says in the chat, gay conversion therapy equals bad, trans conversion therapy equals good, ?
Wait, what?
So here's the thing. Let's say you're a straight person, and...
Hi.
Or let's say you're a gay person, and they try to convert you to be gay. They try to stop you from being gay. Well, that's basically telling you that you should be attracted to other things, despite what you might be personally interested in. Consider that to straight people who aren't interested in girls with dicks. Well, as it turns out, that's also conversion therapy. Because you're telling somebody who's interested in vaginas that a woman with a penis is a woman, except there's a penis, so there's a problem, and that's conversion therapy that the left is pushing. So the irony is palpable at that point.
You know, I've not actually heard anyone say that before.
Yeah, no, because it's very like, hold on, wait a second, aren't you basically pushing conversion therapy on people who don't want to date trans folk? Yeah, you are.
I do want to say, as interesting as that comment was, I know obviously it was a tangible thing connecting to Mike Pence and the gay conversion therapy stuff, but it's one hell of a derailment.
Yeah, you're quite right. Shall we move on then?
Yeah, sure. Before we do that, what do you think will happen from this? Do you think Trump will get impeached?
I think that he's going to gain support because as soon as Pelosi announced impeachment proceedings, he raised $13 million.
Oh dear, oh dear. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I honestly, I think, I don't know who leaned on her to make her call it, but up until the moment she did, I had a bit of respect for her for not, because I felt like they just didn't have anything to go on. And now it's a case of, oh, you did it, even though we all knew it anyway. Yeah. Okay, do you want to talk about California for a bit?
Sure, California sucks. That's my starting comment.
But I've got the LA Times article up. I'm very interested about this Who wants to leave California? Young voters can't afford housing and conservatives feel alienated. I like they've separated young voters and conservatives. That's nice.
Yeah, well, at least statistically, young voters traditionally vote Democrat.
True.
Especially in California. But if we're gonna give it like a full-on, a rehashing of all definitions, since the left tends to do that themselves, let's just consider it as millennials and early Gen Zers who are coming out of college and realizing that buying a house or buying an apartment is extremely expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my fiance's sister lives in the area, and she finds that she cannot afford the area either. And bear in mind, I mean, it's about... Oh, God.
Oh, I think my audio's gone. Hang on. Sorry, Trops. Hang on. Oh, that's better. There we go, it's back. Sorry. I pulled the USB cable out. Please continue.
The $1,400 to $1,700 of rent just for an apartment.
That's a lot.
I mean, that's a considerable amount.
That's more than I make.
A
lot of people on average wage in this country don't make that in pounds a month. They make like half as much.
That's the weird part. Unless you're making some six figures, you're not gonna be able to afford that, really. And even for a cheaper rent.
Depends. Obviously, another thing would be how much your tax rates are. Some states obviously regulate a little bit lower than others.
Right. It's almost like California creates their own classist divide, because many poor people can't afford to live there. In fact, that's probably why you have an extreme homelessness crisis happening in California, specifically Los Angeles and San Francisco. What I would definitely say, though, is that the young people who end up moving will probably receive a good amount of a culture shock. Now, I came from North Jersey, so when I moved to where I am now, which is the South, I found that actually people were less racist where I was now, as opposed to where I used to be. Which is kind of crazy, considering that you'd expect the democratically held Jersey would be considerably, it's where Cory Booker's from. Let's just put it that way, But where I live now, I see many more black people. I live near many more black people, and they're my neighbors, and I like them. As opposed to Jersey, where I was basically sectioned off from black people. Like, the area I lived in, there was not a black person unless you went towards the inner city, towards Patterson and Newark.
There is a fantastic map that color codes each region in Jersey, and it's really funny to look at because it gives some of the funniest names for them. I'll go find it while you talk about Jersey.
But yeah, apparently even Deb agrees and moved from New Jersey to Atlanta, and I've been to Atlanta several times, and I've seen people work more in tandem with their neighbors than they did in Jersey.
So in Jersey, you have in the top of it, vast wilderness of rednecks and retired hippies. Below them, lake house owned by New Yorkers. In the middle, McMansions, old people and Asians, lawyer driving hybrids. Where they filmed clerks, bankers, and businessmen. As you get down to the south, you got ghetto in the woods, pretty much Alabama, pines everywhere, and happy white families surrounding an area called huge houses and country clubs, and worse than Detroit.
Yeah. So as you can tell, Jersey has essentially, we'll call it gerrymandering for lack of a better term, but they basically sectioned off the white people from the black people.
I'll even put it on the screen for everyone.
Yeah, let's do that. Because where I lived, the most minority I had ever seen was, let's see, Asians mostly?
I'll DM you the image. You can, you can have a look.
This is funny. I enjoy this.
Where are you? I'll put it in political recap. It's easier, because I can't remember. Sources, image, where are you? Oh, I've got it put in the folder, haven't I? I do apologise. Political recap. There you go. You've got it. This is one of my... I love this image, by the way. It's one of my favourite things. I was shared by a former patron called Andrew. He showed it to me. It was so funny. You're from Happy White People. The melting pot.
I'm from well-to-do conservatives, apparently.
Oh, really? You're from that area? Christie country?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is funny because the area I lived in hated Chris Christie because he fucking had policies that went after teachers, firefighters, and police officers, which is a big no-no when it comes to conservative.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting. I absolutely, by the way, I love this map. I'm going to take it off the screen now, but it was worth it. It's one of my favourite things ever about New Jersey.
The hill people is true. Don't even fucking, like, it's real. Those are the people who, like, who you'd imagine, like, Outlast. I don't know if any of you guys have ever played Outlast, but, like, that shit. And then pretty much Alabama, that's it too.
Is it in the Discord? I'll see what I'll do, Prospero, for you.
Put it in the general.
I'll stick it in general for you, Prospero, so you have a copy for you. I'll tag you, Prospero, so you have it. Enjoy, Prospero.
But yeah, so when I moved down south, where people all say that all the racism happens, there was less, actually.
What's that?
There was less racism.
Oh, right, sorry, yes, I misheard you. My mistake. Yes, continue.
So, I forget where I was going with this originally.
Talking about the racism.
Oh, yes, we're moving out of California. So I think that the people who are leaving California, the young people, will get a good culture shock if they move to conservative areas. Because they'll see that the people that had told them what was true are going to be revealed as full of shit.
Yeah.
Now that's what I can hope for the most.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I would say so. I just hope they don't go to all one area, all live in the same place, and then turn that area blue. That's a big problem.
Oh, is it?
That's what's happening in Texas right now, unfortunately.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's in two major cities, isn't it?
Austin and Houston, mostly.
Yeah, so just two main cities. Although if they have enough voters and they just outvote the rest of the state, that could be a problem. But that can happen, can it?
I don't think that's possible because Texas is such a big ass place. But don't get me wrong, Austin and Houston are large areas, so if they turn blue, they have a good amount of individuals. And yeah, Becca says Texas is definitely going blue. We'll see. But that's a concerning thing just because of how many electoral votes it holds.
I would say if Dalian is a Texan, and if she says it's not going to happen, I'm going to trust her on that.
Yeah, I don't have the insight that a Stallion has, so I'm gonna yield to her as well.
Yeah. Okay. So with the housing thing, that brings up pod shares, doesn't it? Because that's what people are doing to offset it, aren't they? They're trying to, but they're giving up freedom, like space, and trying to give up basically privacy and everything else to pay still a phenomenal amount of rent to live in what is essentially a massive bed in a very large area where everyone can see you and see what you're doing all the time. Just to live in California.
California, essentially, you can make good money in California. Don't get me wrong. Like that is obviously Silicon Valley. That is Hollywood. You can send all the artists in the world to California, and they don't mind living in squalor for the hope of maybe making it to fame and fortune.
Mm-hmm.
However, certain people with self-respect, myself included, would rather go work somewhere else.
Right.
For slightly less money. Don't get me wrong, it's only slightly.
Well, it's quality of living, isn't it? That's what it comes down to. My view is, if I make enough money to get by, I'm happy, which I do. I have a nice room, and I'm healthy. I have everything I could ever need because of this and because of real work. I don't need more than that, which is obviously that's how I don't care if anyone else wants to earn more. That's great. But if I'm doing that and then forfeiting my personal space, that's where I have an issue because I need it.
Yeah.
And I like to
No,
live a certain way.
and
And
you should want that too.
yeah, and so people who are wanting to live in California cause California, I think is a bit stupid because you're thinking of it as, oh, a wonderful place to live. Look, I live here. You don't. You sleep in a prison, essentially. And that's what they are, aren't they? They're massive areas with massive beds. Where does that sound familiar? I mean, remove the word massive from bed.
Or they have those pod sharing places.
Yeah.
Where it's essentially somebody bought a warehouse and put a bunch of little, like, 8 feet by 3 feet fucking pods you sleep in.
That reminds me of the coffin hotel things in Japan.
It kind of feels like that, yeah. Except that's a tourist attraction. This is people's living arrangement.
I'd actually be okay sleeping in one of those things, to be fair.
Honestly, but like the area that I live in,
But not a pod share, though.
you could honestly for 140 grand, which it's reasonable when you take out a mortgage, you can get some 3 to 5 acres of land.
Yeah, okay, we can't get that over here, but for 140 grand you can get the house I live in. And it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It's not small, it's an end terrace, decent garden, but it's still, it's good bang for your buck, you know? And these houses are built to last.
Somebody I work with, for 160, bought 8 acres of land.
Yeah.
And, first of all, that's a fuck ton. I don't even know what management's like on that. But that's an enormous amount of ownership.
Yeah.
For relatively cheap, especially when you consider what New Jersey looked like, where 160,000 would get you fucking nothing.
Yeah. I do want to quickly address something from the chat. Ithalian, you're quite right to mention the cities is more the rest of the state's more than the cities. I think because of there's a conflation that usually crops up. It's not a criticism, by the way. It's because of things like, for example, Chicago, where most of the districts vote red except for one, and that one district outvotes the other 9, or something like that. I don't remember the exact.
Essentially that
Yeah.
idea, yeah.
That's how. But obviously, if that's not how it runs in Texas, then obviously it's different, and that was a mistake on our part.
Well, essentially what it is that inner cities and big cities are traditionally blue. That's almost consistent across the board. And the surrounding areas, obviously the countryside, are usually all red.
Yeah.
If you took all of the red districts, all the people who lived in the red districts, and all the people who lived in the blue district, you'd see a massive difference in population, sure. But the amount of land that covers all the rest of it, you'd see a massive overhaul of red.
Yeah. I think that's also where a number of politicians in your country especially get it wrong. Because I only ever see them giving speeches in the major cities. Not all of them, of course, but the majority of those I see promoted heavily only ever appear in the cities, giving massive rallies. It's like, you really aren't appealing to the common American.
But that's why. Because the red districts and the blue districts are almost always consistent. The only places that ever switch are the places that are filled with a majority of centrists. That's why you always used to hear that Ohio was a battleground state.
Oh, careful! I'm hearing Sophane's screech in the background something about there's no such thing as a centrist.
Sophane, personally from Trump's LP, go fuck yourself.
The views of Trump's do not reflect the views of Omegon.
Tweet at me. I'll make sure to ignore you. Anyway.
Probably blocked you anyway.
I see how much he tweets every day. It's not worth it.
I watch. It's funny.
I work for a living. My apologies.
So does he, oddly enough.
Oh, yeah. Well, apparently not very well.
Yes. Don't want to...
Anyways, but yeah, smaller towns and smaller areas, the more country, quote unquote, you get, the more stagnant they are in their beliefs. And usually those beliefs center around family values, don't tax me, and I would like to keep my house. Ironically, Democrats like to postulate themselves as the the advocates for the working class, but they haven't been worth the working class's vote probably in the last 30 years.
Oh.
Oh, absolutely not. If you're gonna think like let's just put it out as Obama, right? Definitely he tried to say that he was for the working class, but well, his record's not great with that. I mean, he tried to, I don't know, force everyone to buy his health care, but Patriarch says Chubbs LP works at Applebee's.
He's a Walmart greeter. Get it right.
Yeah, I work for the government. Fuck off.
That's what I said, right? Walmart.
Yeah. Warmonger. Yeah, that's fair enough. Sargon's manager. Mm.
Yes, and he has to call him Daddy. Anyway.
He's got enough kids. He doesn't need me calling him Daddy too.
Oh God, cringe.
But no, basically, what it comes down to is those areas that can be flipped are the ones that get campaigned in. Otherwise, not so much.
I think that's where many politicians get it wrong. I mean, the amount of money getting thrown at them, you'd think they would be able to spring for a few extra leaflets. But
at the very least, maybe it makes them spring for, I don't know, better fucking ideas.
Well, perhaps that's why your system is considered by some to be a bit broken in the respect that you have so many people, you have such a vast area to cover, you raise tens, even hundreds of millions of dollars, and you can't really campaign anywhere that isn't a swing state or a safe state.
Right,
and there aren't many swing states. It's just, I don't know. I don't really know what to say to that, because it's unfortunate. Let's go with that. I think it'd be spicier to see more of the ardent blues or ardent reds being campaigned in by the opposite colour.
Well, you'd imagine, right? If you really were a campaigner for the working class, let's see you go into coal country.
Go into the coal country and say, I'm going to take your jobs away.
Right, that's why they don't, because they're at least aware of themselves enough to know that they can't do that.
They can't do it unless they do it from distance.
And Trump is costing taxpayers too much money.
No, it's the troll from last week. It's the troll from last week.
I know.
Don't engage.
Just saying. Damn it, but he brings in comments.
It's fine. Engage in the chat.
Alright, fine, enough. You want to move on to your shit?
I do, after I address one thing, I got a DM from somebody, a friend of mine. She paid, in her state, she paid $140,000 for 6 acres. Which isn't bad, really, is it? It's not bad.
No, absolutely not. That's great fucking money.
Yeah, so that's not bad. In our country, you can get for less, but okay, first, so I'm gonna start with the very first day back from Parliament, which led to an interesting fallout. During the speech that Boris Johnson gave, and I'm gonna put a picture on the screen because it's correct. Where is it? No, Trubs, Lib Dems, Boris. There you are. Yeah. So during this, he said something about Jo Cox. Jo Cox was murdered by some moron. Jo Cox was a Labour MP, and yeah, she was murdered in cold blood. Simple as. It was not nice, it was not pleasant, it wasn't right, of course not. And during the speech he said something respecting Jo Cox by getting Brexit done. And this triggered so many people, because others have been using her name anyway and have been using it for years. But in the context that he used it, for Brexit, that's bad. And so some, during that, asked him to apologise and asked him to clarify, and he replied with the word humbug, which led to more absolute screeching. And I don't mean autistic screeching, I mean actual screeching. They got so triggered because of... wait, did I say Joe? Yeah, sorry, I completely, for a second, had a brain collapse. Because he said her name multiple times in Parliament. Hang on, did I say Joe Swinson or did I say Joe...
You said Jo Cox.
Oh, thank fuck for that. Thank you. I thought I'd said Joe Swinson, so my mind just shut down for a second. Because he mentioned her, because he refused to apologise, politicians on the opposite benches and some behind got triggered, and so it brought out this thing the next day, where you had debates on language professionalism, parliamentarian stuff, and all this nonsense, and the speaker had to start by saying that people should be allowed to say what they want to say in whatever manner they want to say it. Right? And and so people continued to defy this. Some saying we should all be professional, polite, kind to each other at all times, while unironically screaming when somebody on the opposite benches says something they don't like. In the case of the MP for Birmingham Yardley, Mrs. Jessica Phillips, who had asked for calm and professionalism while talking about her dear friend Jo Cox, using her to make a very political point, like Boris unironically did. Like Boris Jid, is Joris Bonson, everyone. Joris Bonson. And then when he said it, she was roaring at him, and somebody called her out for it. More people have continued to come out about this. Amber Rudd, a former Work and Pensions Secretary, now an independent, accused them of using language that incites violence. I'm sorry, but now that people have set this up, let's go with straw man, shall we? They've set this up in the sense that they're allowed to say whatever they want to each other and to the public, but when they say it to each other, also, it's inciting violence, so you can't say it. I'm sorry, but I don't understand, because people are also directing their anger at the Chief Advisor, Dominic Cummings, but he's thrown this off and said this is a case of people getting very angry and now looking for something else to get very aggressive about, so they can deflect from the fact that Brexit has to be done, and by doing so they're wasting more time. They're trying to find ways to not only protect parliamentarians, but they're also trying to, which I understand because there is an increase of attacks on MPs. It's gone up a lot actually. It's gone up from 2017 to just over 100 to this year so far just over 230 so far this year. From September to July, that is, of this year, which is that's a lot. But I'm not going to make excuses for those who do that stuff. Obviously, it can be, there's a context. I'm sure that never gets brought down when we see, a mean tweet. Why don't you just do what they do on the Kimmel thing and make people read them? That's funnier. They're trying to legislate to make it, they're trying to make it so that you can't say certain things. They're trying to police language in Parliament now as well. By doing so, you are attacking the very concept of free speech. And the Speaker was right when he said people have been bringing down Parliament for the last few years with their continuous shouting, screaming and using of profane language. However, and it's a big however really, people should be allowed to say whatever they want. As long as the other person is heard, it doesn't truly matter. So why they feel the need to continue to use, to try and legislate to prohibit speech is astonishing. Because if you're doing it to yourselves, aren't you kind of restricting yourself? Trying to make things more professional by forcing everyone to talk to each other civilly, but the people who aren't being civil in the first place are the people getting triggered when somebody references Jo Cox.
How dare you, comrade?
I don't get it. I was actually going to quickly look and see. I was trying to look at the Brexit quick thing while I was talking about it, because I was very keen to find out what her I believe her Jo Cox's constituency voted Remain, but I honestly can't actually remember. And so I was trying to find out. Let's have a look. Batesley and Spence. Sure. That doesn't help. That just tells me about her murder. Fantastic.
How much would you think the Parliament would freak out if someone just dropped the N word in the middle of their speech?
I think it'd be quite funny. Yeah, because the guy did one of the collaborators and a traitor to white people. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah. Okay. Definitely a Remainer. Okay. Other continued fallout from all this nonsense with Brexit this week, and if someone did drop that word, that'd be very funny, but also get them into a lot of trouble. I want to quickly address something I noticed just before the stream started, and that was Joe Swinson, who I need. Where's the picture? Where are you? There you are. Joe Swinson, vote Liberal Democrats, everyone. Stasi. There is a hashtag for resign Joe Swinson at the moment, because she's trying to make an amendment or adjust, to try and adjust the Hillary Benn Surrender Act, or Surrender Bill Act, law, whatever, to fortify it and bring it forward so that, it would force an extension now, which has got people very angry. People accusing her of obsessive right-wing zeal, and that Joe Swinson is the only person that's keeping No Deal alive, with others claiming that she could back Corbyn to get the Tories out of power, but she won't because she really wants a role in Boris Bonson's cabinet. You know what? The funny thing about Joe Swinson is her voting record shows that she voted in favour of austerity, right? She's literally sided with the Conservatives for years, and is no longer willing to back Jeremy Corbyn for even a few weeks to prevent No Deal. I find that quite funny. I think for a hashtag, it's funny, especially to see how many people are angry at her for what seems to be a complete it's that infamous I voted one way in the past, so that now means I'm a bad person now because people have finally bothered to look at my voting record. I mean, come on.
Womp womp.
Come on. I should point out, right, while people put her second in many polls in the race for a general election, with Boris still winning a majority and Corbyn coming third, that doesn't mean she'd get more seats at all. And by the way, just to put it into context on votes, from 2010 to 2015, this will be the great example. She voted with the Tory whip 849 times in 5 years. Yeah, with the Conservatives, and I mean that number goes into the thousands, by the way. With most of, I would now point it out, most of the current Conservative cabinet being above her. The only person who she beats is Boris Johnson, who was not applicable because he was mayor at the time. I can't believe that's all come out against her. And to go further down that path, the SNP have already come out saying they're willing to do a deal with Labour by offering Scotland a second independence vote, with Downing Street now accusing them of Labour doing the deal with the SNP. And this comes because Sturgeon put out a little tweet indicating that she would kind of be willing to work with them. Oh god, are they still talking about Trump in the chat?
Shh, don't worry about it, keep talking.
Oh, no, we can talk about Trump for a little bit if you want. Should we just talk about how amazing he is for the next 4 minutes?
I mean, we could. I enjoyed this picture of Joe Swinson.
I've been wanting to use it for a thumbnail for a video for like a week now.
I couldn't tell if it was photoshopped or not, to be honest with you.
I desperately want to use it for a thumbnail for a video. I really do, but I have yet to find a video to use it on, and it's actually bugging me, so I thought, screw it. She came up, and I'm like, putting the picture in OBS quickly. So, President number 45, Trump, can he twerk it? He twerks the best.
I don't know. The guy is 73 years old. I don't know.
I hear he twerks best when he dislocates his hips.
Oh no. That being said, for a brief moment, I will talk about the things that I found earlier today. So before the stream chat, I was looking up Trump news because curiosity, right?
Yep.
And I found that typing in Trump's on basically had 4 or so things about Trump himself. That was about it. Everyone else was about his wife, his daughter, his lawyer, and his kids. Who the fuck cares about his kids? Somebody, obviously, has been very interested in not Trump himself, but rather all the other things related to him. Why? Because he's better than you. Now that's just my opinion. I know 45 Lives will disagree, but that's okay. And yes, Becca, I don't want to see that honestly either. Though his Drake's cell phone video was hilarious.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds amazing.
Oh my god, you never seen that? That was like from... Oh god, that was like 2015?
Nah, I never saw it. Doesn't matter. I just wanted to be a dick for a minute with those who continue.
And by the way, 45 Lies, by the way. Religious freedom as long as it's a Christian God. Well, you're talking to an atheist and a pagan at the moment.
Atheist? Wait, what?
Aren't you... Oh, I'm sorry, you're agnostic?
No, I just don't care.
Okay.
I'm apathetic. There you go.
Okay, yeah, that's a better point. An apathetic and a pagan.
Say it a little bit more. Just draw on the and then just really hammer the pathetic.
Yeah. Pathetic. Yes, good.
Yeah.
So, free speech is only available in America. Constitutionally speaking, absolutely.
I just want to say to those who continue talking about Trump in the chat, I was talking about Brexit. What the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, I know you're a troll. I get it, but come on.
From the UK.
Can you not, like, I don't know, moan about Boris instead? Give me some fuel. Oh, I'm bummed out now. Oh, well, instead I'm gonna
feel bad for Boris. Okay, this is actually a great representation of what's going on. They think Trump is the worst, and Boris is second fill.
Yeah. Okay. I'm. By the way, I'm done. I have nothing else. I could go on for a while about Brexit, but I just realised the time.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to shill?
Not really, unfortunately.
Subscribe
One day
to
I'll be able
Trups.
to start making videos again.
Subscribe to Trups anyway for regular updates. And also just to boost his sub count, which would be great. I have a premiere over on the Moisky Reads channel, which I'm going to link in the chat now. Please consider swinging by, because I spent ages on this. Well, the editing is non-existent, so just put it on the background for the audio only. It's probably best. It's quite long though, so yeah. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back hopefully next Friday.
Should be.
Bit more prepared this time as well, next time as well, because I'd like to want to continue trying to improve this if I can. So I'll see you all later. Good to say goodnight, Traps.
Good night, Traps.
Good night, Traps.